As you're setting up your Google Classroom for your new school year, there are a couple of things you want to do to make sure that it's as decluttered as possible. The first step, once you enter into Classroom, is to archive any classes you no longer teach. By archiving them, you not only remove them from your dashboard, but it also is removed from your students' dashboard. Students cannot unenroll from a Google Classroom, so until you archive it, they will always see it on their dashboard. You, as a teacher, by the way, cannot unenroll from any classes that you joined as a student role. So to archive, we click the three dots next to the class that we want to archive, and we click Archive. Don't worry, archiving does not delete your Google Classroom. It simply puts it out of sight. If you ever want to access it, in the main menu, you'll see the Archive class section. Any archived class can be unarchived and brought back to live. You can also still make copies of those classrooms. And when you're creating assignments, you can reuse any assignments from archived classes as well. It's just a nice way to keep the dashboard clean. Speaking of clean, there are a couple things you might want to consider for your notifications in Google Classroom. In the dashboard, on that same ribbon where you saw archived classes, go to Settings. Here you want to make sure that Guardian Access is turned on. You want to, and here you can decide the amount of email notifications you're going to receive. If you get an ungodly amount of Google Classroom emails, you may want to turn this off, or at the very least, reduce the type of notifications that you get. You can choose between the comments, you can choose between classes that you're enrolled in as a student, or classes that you teach, and individual classes themselves. I would encourage you to take some time with this so that your email does not get inundated with Google Classroom notifications once students start participating. So that's for the general Google Classroom. In the specific classroom itself, if you click on it, in the upper corner, you'll see a settings bar. Here is where you can rename it. You may have a naming protocol for your site and in the descriptions that you need. We don't need to worry about sys integration right now, but you do want to have invite codes turned on so you can share this with students via email. And you can always display the join code largely there if you're doing this in class. Then you also can control how the stream and classwork settings for this unique class. You have to do this for each class, and I encourage you to find one that works for you. For me, I don't need students posting on the stream, and I don't need any of the work I assign to show up on the stream. I want to keep the stream as clean as possible. And to show you what that looks like, anything underneath the announcements is what is called your stream. And if you don't change those settings, every single thing you do will pop up here, and it can get kind of overwhelming. Let me show you an example. In my class from last year, you can see I've posted a couple of things on here throughout the year, and these are not notifications. These are things that I actively posted. And for the most part, they were useful for a moment in time, or they were there for students who have trouble finding things, no matter how clear you think your directions are. It pops up right away, they can get to them. And I always kept, no matter what, I always kept our class website pinned to the top because we use that in conjunction. If you ever want to move something to the top, you can do that like there. So keeping your stream clear is one way to keep it decluttered. And then when you need to post something, maybe it's a last minute, oh, here, access this, and you want to give to them in real time, you can put it there. Or something that they're going to be using quite a bit for a particular unit. It's nice to have it ready and available. And you can set that up again through the settings right here. You also want to make sure your Guardian access is turned on. Guardians have more insight this year as of July than they have previously. Guardians can choose to get emails daily or weekly, and they get an overview of what is going on in Classroom. They cannot see inside Classroom, and they definitely cannot see the grades assigned if you post anything in Classroom in terms of grades. What they will get, though, are missing assignments, upcoming assignments. They can see announcements, and they can see some of the attachments. So they're getting more information. You want to make sure that they have access to that. And so you want to make sure that's on. And then you would take this link and you can use Infinite Campus or however else you have set up where you can email parents and send them that invite for that class only. So if you teach high school, each class or each period, however you have it set up, will have a separate link. So you want to make sure you keep those separated. And the rest you really don't need to worry about. Okay. With those basic settings, you'll have a decluttered Google Classroom desktop or dashboard, and you'll have a decluttered Outlook email with the notifications that only you need to see. There are some changes that have happened since school has left out, and just a few reminders of things that came into play last year. Now you can create student groups. Before, you could a la carte select students and unselect students, and it was kind of a hassle. Now you can create groups in order to assign both announcements, but also coursework. This works great for differentiation, individualization, and personalization, as well as if you are offering content that has been modified for IEPs without having to signal that somebody is getting a different form of material than another. So that's kind of neat. Of course, you have those practice sets, which is kind of like a Google form quiz with analytics and AI support. You have the ability to create YouTube videos that are interactive, where you can ask questions as you go through, kind of like with Ed Puzzle. And that content is now shareable. So underneath resources, if you create something, you can share it with other teachers in your department to be used with their classroom and in future classrooms. So if you are working together to each kind of build a product, then you have a library worth of products to share together. Mentioned previously, guardians now get more information in their weekly or daily letter or email coming home. As mentioned previously, guardians now get more information in their daily or weekly Google Classroom emails, but you do need to make sure that you have invited them and that they've accepted that invitation. And that's something you can see on this page here. Also, remember that you do have a calendar for each classroom. You may have noticed I was able to click on it directly through any of these tabs up here. And if you have anything in the calendar, it'll show up in this little spot here, which is always nice. This calendar, though, can be embedded on a Google website where you can share it with where you could share it publicly so that family and guardians can see assignments that are upcoming. Right now, you can share the calendar publicly directly with a link, but it doesn't show the descriptions yet. It simply shows that this task is busy. So if you want families to be able to see what's coming up in Google Classroom, you can add it to your Google site if you have a class website. And that allows people to see upcoming assignments. The only thing, though, that shows up on a Google Classroom calendar are assignments. So even if you were to go into the calendar and add a task, this would not appear in that classroom calendar, even if you assigned it or put it into the calendar. The only way you can get things onto the classroom calendar is through the coursework or the classwork here. When you do create assignments, always, always, always check plagiarism. Every time you assign that, make an assignment and you click that, it not only will it search all of the classwork that's been turned in for that assignment to the internet, it'll also go through any previously submitted work turned inside of our Google domain. So if the work is supposed to be original into that particular assignment, and a student tries to reuse something that they've previously done in another class, it will catch that. And that repository of student work builds as we filter things through it. So you need to make sure you're turning that on whenever you create an assignment. Okay, so those are some of the new tips. Enjoy.